So there was recently an interview where Neil Druckmann spoke about their next game. It's a long interview. There's a lot here. As you can see, it was posted to Sony 2 hours ago. It's creator to creator podcast. Two genre defining creators realize they've been influencing each other all along. Neil Druckmann, The Last of Us, Intergalactic, Heretic Prophet, and Alex Garland, 28 years later in Civil War, meet for a candid conversation on storytelling, pushing boundaries, tackling tough questions in the creative process. And they go through this. So they do this whole long interview. It's 53 minutes long. Naturally, I don't think we can watch the entire thing, but somebody did clip together some of the highlights and notable things about Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, which of course is the upcoming game from Naughty Dog. Now, real quick, to catch you up on where I'm at, Intergalactic, Heretic, the Heretic Prophet, I just frankly think that this trailer was really bad as a trailer. Like, I just think it's a bad trailer. Doesn't mean the game will be bad, but I think the trailer is a bad trailer. I think if the trailer's goal is to get you introduced to a world and a universe and characters and get you excited for what the video game is going to be, I think this game, like this trailer, just doesn't really do that, for me at least. And I don't think I'm alone in that feeling. The game could be amazing. I just think it's a bad trailer because I think it doesn't tell you much useful information. Like, they do some things which are graphically really impressive, big flexes and stuff like that, but based on this trailer, it seems to be like a knockoff Guardians of the Galaxy style game that's more dark and brooding. And that might end up being amazing, but I just think the trailer's not very good. So that's kind of where I'm at. The vibe, it doesn't do anything for me. I know some people love this like retro futuristic thing, very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque. I know some people love it. I just don't. It doesn't do anything for me. Doesn't mean it's bad. I just don't really connect with it. It didn't work for me with Concord. It doesn't work with me here. Guardians of the Galaxy, is whatever. It's never really done much for me, but I know some people love it. This little snippet of what seems to be like a lead into what would be gameplay. This hit happens, camera pulls back, and then gameplay starts. That seems interesting, but even then, like, this is the only part of the trailer that's really actually giving us a look at what the game actually could be. So ever since this trailer dropped, I've just been kind of like, like, I wouldn't say that I'm excited for it because I just don't even know what it is yet. There's not much to work with, right? That being said, Rhino collected these tidbits, and these are from that interview. And so it's just kind of key bullet points and stuff. It's set 2,000 years, I think, in the future, in an alternate future. Timeline deviates from the 1980s, which is why you have all the 80s inspirations and things. The game is about faith and religion, which makes sense. Heretic Prophet. A new religion starts with the timeline deviation. This is something they've alluded to previously as well. After the first prophet, many altered religion. Planet Semperia is where the religion is based. Communications were cut off 600 years ago. No one made it in or out. The protagonist, Jordan, crash landed. No idea what happened to its inhabitants. Emphasizes on being lonely. No companion is with you. The game is meant to take or make you focus on feeling lost and how things turned out the way that they did, and how to get off the planet, which a lot of this is already known. Specifically that you're crash landed on a planet. You have to try to get off, but nobody's ever gotten off the planet before. You're also trying to reconnect with your crew, which is what's shown in this little like poster board section where you see the 5 aces mastermind dead or hiding. And then all these potential aliases. Cesar Maceda, they cross out some names here. ID photos for alias. And then this one's highlighted, known VIN variants. Timestamp 4 years old. This is a dead end. Third largest safety deposit ship discovered empty weeks after theft. So they suggest that this is like a crew that robbed someplace and then they all split up and went into hiding. And now Jordan, the protagonist, is trying to reconnect the group for some reason, and they might be on the planet, or maybe they ended up on the planet, which is why she's going there. I think, but again, this is one of those things where I'm like, okay, so we're getting the gang back together. It's like that episode of Phineas and Ferb when they're trying to get the gang back together, the band. It's basically the story of this game. And knowing Neil Druckmann, I'm guessing the entire thing is going to be an allegory for some real world event or dispute, it could be great. But there's just not a lot to work with. It's your pirate game. How dare you? How dare you? Hearing that there's no companion is really interesting, because one of the things that Naughty Dog kind of pioneered with the old Uncharted games was having a companion with the player to build relationships. And that was something that worked fantastically well. It was kind of honestly fascinating how well it worked. I think they were even surprised by it. But effectively, the idea was the player is, you know, they have the player character, but you don't really get to see into their mind unless there's a cutscene or unless they're writing in a journal or talking to the camera for some reason. So you're kind of limited. But if you put a companion, like gameplay companion, with the player, then you can have dialogue back and forth. You can build a relationship with that companion character by way of gameplay. So you think of The Last of Us. The best example is that you're playing through the game as Joel, who's a very capable fighter, who's very, rough and tumble, but he needs Ellie to get through some of the areas he's in. And so you kind of form this symbiotic relationship. And then he gets injured at one point in the game, and you take over control of Ellie, and you start playing as Ellie without Joel. And it's a little jarring because you don't have the same inventory, you don't have the same stuff. It totally changes it. And you feel like exposed, you feel vulnerable as Ellie would. And so you built this relationship between the player and the characters through gameplay, and it can introduce new emotions, heighten tensions, raise the stakes, all sorts of stuff. And if they honestly are going to go through this with no companion, that I think would be surprising. What I'm braced for is for them to add a brace or something that allows for some discourse, between the player character and another character, as they show in this little tidbit here, talking to the lady on camera. I wouldn't be surprised if like you have a basically a radio and she's rambling at you constantly to share that dialogue back and forth and to prompt the player to like, oh, this is what the character's thinking because they're talking to this person and they're communicating what they're thinking. They hang up the call, idiot. Oh, they didn't agree with the person they were talking to. You know, there's all sorts of ways that you can kind of covertly communicate what somebody is feeling or thinking by way of putting characters together and kind of bouncing them off of each other. But looking at this, I mean, I just find this to be a very interesting route for Naughty Dog to take. It's a new IP, which I think is going to creatively challenge them, which I appreciate. But even then, I don't think there's much to go on. Like, there's just not a whole lot. It could be great, but I think the next trailer, they need to do what they did with The Last of Us Part 2, which is just to drop like a solid 10 minutes of gameplay and just show why people should be really excited and thrilled. And I think they can do that. But I think it's, until that point, I think it's okay to be like, because it's just not a great trailer. It's like, I ticked off some people when I landed. I think I was on a flight when they announced this, and I landed and I tweeted out like, oh, surprised that Naughty Dog announced Concord 2. I thought it was a little funny because it's like retro futurism. It's, not a great trailer. I thought it was funny. I triggered some people hard. Some people got mad. I don't think it's gonna like flop or anything. I think the game is probably gonna be really impressive in many, 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 many ways. But I just think it's a really bad trailer. Remember when Intergalactic girl jumped? Remember when she jumped? It was super cool. Yeah, where's her hot sauce? Like hot sauce guy in Concord's trailer. Now that would have been a good trailer if she, instead of was like just sitting there, was eating some dish with hot sauce. That could have been really cool. Yeah, that could have been really good. Honestly, I don't think it'll sell well. The problem, Defeater Eater, is that there's like literally nothing to go on. And that's where I'm at. Like, normally with trailers, we can look at it, we can break it down, we can sink our teeth into it. But with this, there's just not much to go on. They show you a lot on this wall, like just a lot of information. Disorganized acting alone, painted blue, silver, black, back to blue, no Mars print. Like, they have all this stuff, pictures of space yachts and things. But like, this isn't an established IP. We don't know these characters. There's not much to go on. Like, again, I just think as a trailer trying to introduce a new world to us, it shouldn't be a surprise that people are like, so it's like knockoff Guardians of the Galaxy is what we're doing. Even though I don't think that's what it's actually going to play like. I think it's going to play much more isolated, much more dark and gritty. Like, I think that's how it's going to play. But I don't blame people for having that perception. We're just gonna have to wait a year. Yeah, teaser, guys, teaser. Yeah, it's a teaser, and I think the people that are saying, well, looks like Naughty Dog has another game of the year on their hands. It's like, nope, it's too early for that. I think it is a teaser, but I think the teaser cuts both ways. I think it's unreasonable to be extremely hyped for something we know nothing about, and it's also unreasonable for people to be like, yup, flop incoming. I'm like, maybe it is, but I just haven't seen anything to suggest that.
He took my thing. Red flag, red